Does anxiety really come out of nowhere? And how the heck do you treat it from a spiritual perspective? That's what this episode of the Spiritual Psychotherapy Podcast is all about. I'm your host, Jennifer Sneeden, and I specialize in using a spiritual approach to treating anxiety and panic. So, as you can imagine, I have been so excited about recording this episode. I want to first talk about what anxiety is. Then I want to discuss what's going on for people who are experiencing it. And then, of course, how to help. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I am going to tell you how to help. So let's start first with what anxiety is. Anxiety is it's your body's reaction to a perceived threat in the world around you. So this all happens in a part of your brain called the amygdala, and the amygdala plays a key role in processing fear and anxiety. When the amygdala senses a threat, it triggers the body's flight or fight response, which includes higher blood pressure, higher heart rate, fear, anxiety, increased stress hormone levels. It changes your breathing, it changes your thought patterns. And what's interesting is it also causes the frontal lobe, the higher thinking part of you, the human side of you, to shut down. So you can't rationalize or logic your way through it because it's all coming from a very primal part of your brain. Your body is triggered for action, right? And it's as you know, if you've ever experienced severe anxiety or a panic attack, you have no access to your rational resources. You can't tell yourself to calm down, and somebody else telling you to calm down, ooh, that's not going to go well either, right? So it's very hard in that moment to tap into your higher thinking and respond from the fact that, okay, it's just a loud noise, it's nothing dangerous, I'm safe, I'm fine, right? That you can't do any of that in that moment. So, anxiety and panic are your natural responses to perceived threats. This is a really good thing. This is what keeps you alive. But sometimes what happens is that your amygdala gets the wrong message. It begins to perceive normal everyday events as threats. For some people, just leaving their home is enough to put them on high alert, it's enough to cause them anxiety. When So anxiety is a natural response to feeling unsafe, right? But let's put this in a spiritual perspective. When are we feeling unsafe? We are feeling unsafe spiritually when we're disconnected from our source, from spirit, from our higher power. When we feel disconnected, we feel unsafe, and that produces anxiety. We're on our own in a world that is unsafe and unpredictable and scary. And it makes sense that we're vigilant against threats in every direction. When the world feels unsafe and unpredictable to you, you have to be constantly on guard. You have to have your systems working in overdrive. You have to be anxious to be on the lookout for these things. However, when we're connected to our source, when we're connected to spirit, we are so secure. We know that we're surrounded with love. We feel it. We feel the ease in our bodies. We know that well being is all around us. We know that well being is within us. We allow that well being to flow through us in a way that creates a beautiful life experience. We feel secure. We feel safe, we feel protected. We can understand that whatever happens to us is ultimately happening for our good, no matter how it appears in that moment. And when we have this foundation, we can embrace challenging situations as indicators that point us in the direction where we have opportunities to grow. When you think about it in this context of being connected with source energy, anxiety and panic merely melt away. They don't you no longer have a need for them. Your amygdala never has to be on the lookout for threats like it's been in the past. Or sometimes what happens, and this is even better, we get brief glimpses of anxiety, And it serves as a reminder that we're moving out of our connection with source energy. If you are experiencing anxiety, you are not in connection with source. So when you experience some anxiety and you understand it for what it is, an indicator, it's like a red light flashing that says, wait a minute, you've moved away from where you want to be. Now anxiety becomes the pathway back to reconnecting with source if we allow it to. In my experience working with anxiety and panic, people experiencing anxiety and panic are very good at lying to themselves about how they feel. Abraham Hicks says putting a smiley face sticker on your gas gauge so you don't feel bad when you're out of gas, right? Well, that doesn't work, but that's what so many people do with their emotions. They ignore the little tiny indicators that they're feeling off. Maybe they're irritated and they pretend they're not, or maybe they're disappointed, but they soldier on, right? Whatever it is, so many people have been conditioned to ignore their emotions. Maybe they learned growing up that it wasn't okay to feel or to express emotions. Maybe they learned that boys don't cry, or, be a nice little girl and put a smile on your face. What do you have to be upset about, right? And so we learn to disconnect ourselves from this guidance system that is our emotions. We feel emotions and we ignore them for so long that we sort of just stop even noticing them until they get so big and so out of control that we can't possibly ignore them anymore. If we think of this in terms of anxiety, and we matched up with the emotional guidance scale, people, they live in these states of almost constant fear, powerlessness, unworthiness, undeservingness. And it feels like anxiety comes out of nowhere, but it's because they've been ignoring all of these early warning signs. And because their point of attraction is unworthiness or fear, now they're creating the experiences that they most want to avoid. Many years ago, I had an alarm clock called a Bose Wave radio. The best, it was the best device. Some of you may remember it. When my alarm went off in the morning, it started with these beautiful, soft chimes. And it was the gentlest, easiest way to just ease into this wakeful state. It was beautiful. However, if I was in a deep sleep cycle or I had gone to bed late or I was just ignoring the alarm, it would get progressively louder, more and more insistent until it was reverberating really through the whole house. It was impossible to ignore. I had to get up and address it. And your emotions are like that too. If you're tuned in and you're listening, they will tell you easily and gently when something is wrong. And when we can help clients reach this point of connection to their emotion where they're so tuned in, they can catch it early on, there's no need for these emotions to ever escalate into anxiety or panic. So people dealing with anxiety or panic have ignored all of the early warning signs until that alarm clock is blaring so loudly, there is no more possibility of ignoring it. And nobody wants that. You don't want that with your morning alarm, and you certainly don't want that with your physiological state. The key then to addressing anxiety from a spiritual context is twofold. One, to help clients become aware of their emotions much sooner. Often, this is a matter of teaching them to be honest with themselves, something they may never have done. I will often give clients an exercise of just check in periodically throughout your day and be really honest about how you're feeling in that moment. And it's a pretty distressing and shocking exercise for a lot of clients because a lot of people have convinced themselves that they're feeling good, but then when they really get honest about it, they realize that they're not. And that moment of realization is where the work can really begin. Because now, if they realize that they're very often disappointed or fearful or worried or whatever it is, angry that they're feeling, now we have access to change that. So, getting in touch with emotions sooner and learning the tools to feel better from those tiny little disturbances. Now you have no need to move into a full blown panic attack because you're aware when you're off course, when you're headed in the wrong direction, you're aware a lot sooner. And then the second way we help is by helping people reconnect with their source. When you're experiencing any of the emotions, any of the negative emotions, I guess, it's not the best word, but any of the difficult emotions, um, you're not able to connect with source energy. Your vibration is just a mismatch for source, and it does leave you feeling alone and insecure. The fix for this is to elevate your vibration so that you're in range of the vibration of source energy. And once you're in range of the vibration of source energy, you feel that connection as a real tangible thing. You don't have to take it on faith anymore. You don't have to hope and believe and maybe wonder if someday it's all going to be right for you. You feel the rightness of it in the moment. So by tuning into negative emotions much more early on, you can catch them and you can fix them before they get out of control. And then by strengthening your connection, not in a theoretical, not in a vague generic sense, but in a lived, felt presence every day, then you're so loved and you are so loved that anxiety simply doesn't have a place in your life like it used to. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.